Welcome back, aliens. This is Navin Reddy from Telusko Learnings, and in this video, we'll talk about Java database connectivity. So once we have seen the theory of it, now this time we'll talk about the practical implementation. So if you have not seen my theory topic, just search for Java database connectivity theory by Telusko. Okay, that's my channel name. So if you search for this on YouTube, you will see my theory video. So it's not compulsory to see that video. It's just once you see that video, you will get a better understanding of how to work with JDBC. So let's make a quick recap what we have done. So whenever you work with JDBC, you have to follow 7 steps, right? If you follow the 7 steps, it is very easy for you to connect your Java application with database, and you can fetch whatever values you want. You can insert values, you can fetch values, you can modify values, you can do all those stuff, right? So the first step here is to import the package. The second step will be to load and register a driver. So that is register the driver, right? And the third step we have to do is we have to create a connection. So we have to create a connection. And then the fourth step is you have to create a statement. The fifth step will be you have to execute the query, okay, and then the sixth step will be you have to process the results, okay, which is this, and the last step here is it's your close. Okay, this is not the exact 7 steps. You can actually modify as per your requirement. So this is what we do when we want to connect with database, right? We have to write these 7 steps. Now which package to import? So the package name is java.sql package. Next is whenever you work with JDBC, so we have 4 types of drivers in JDBC, okay, and we need to load one of the driver. So let's say if you are working with MS Access, so you have to work with JDBC 1 driver or JDBC type 1 driver, which is JDBC ODBC bridge. The problem is with the advanced the new version of Java doesn't support ODBC, so now we cannot use ODBC feature using Java 7 or Java 8. So we need to go with the specific type of drivers for the specific type of DBMS. So let's say if you are working with Oracle, we need to go with Oracle driver. So if you are working with MySQL, you have to go with MySQL driver. In this example, we'll try to connect our Java application with MySQL. So for that, we need to use MySQL driver. Now how to connect MySQL driver? So first you have to load the driver. So the driver is com.mysql.jdbc.driver. So we need to load this class called as driver, which belongs to a package which is com.mysql.jdbc. But the problem is it is not there in your system by default. Okay, you will not find this in your Eclipse by default. If you are using NetBeans, well and good, we have this driver inbuilt, but if you are using Eclipse, you have to download this thing from the internet. You just have to go to and you have to search for MySQL connector jar. So you have to search for this statement, MySQL connector jar, and the best place to download anything is Maven repository. So if you don't know about Maven, Maven is just a global repository where you will have all the libraries available. Doesn't matter which Java framework you work with, you have library there. Okay, so just go to MySQL connector, go to Maven and search for MySQL connector. You can select any version, which I'm selecting 5.1.38, which is released in December 2015, and that's okay for us. If you click on this version, you can actually use dependency if you're familiar with Maven. If you're not, then it's okay. We can use MySQL JDBC type 4 driver, okay, and we can just click on download here, and you can see it is getting downloaded. So we have a file of approximately 1 MB. Okay, now let's go back to Eclipse. So we need to load this driver. Okay, so we have to load and register driver. So whenever you work with external jar files, we need to add that jar file here. Okay, so you can see I've already added that. Let me show you the steps to how to add that. Just right click on your project and go to build path, configure build path. Here, let me remove this and I will show you how to add it once again. Just click on add external jar, and so I have that file in my downloads folder. Okay, so that's downloads, and you can select this file here and click on open. So you can see we got our jar file here and click on OK. So once you have imported that file, we need to load and register. How to do that we'll see. Then we have to create connection object. So we have to create the object of connection interface, and then we need to create object of statement interface. Then we have to execute the query, and then we have to process the results. Again, then we have to close the connection. So let's start with the first step. The first step is you have to import the package, right? Now, which package to import? So this is, let me write this in the first line itself. So we'll write here the import statement, which is import java.sql .star, because we want all the interfaces and classes. So that's the first step. The second step would be you have to load and register a driver. Now when you say load and register, what we need to do here is we have to use something called as class.forName. So class.forName, so this forName is a method which will help you to load the class. So you just have to mention the class name. Okay, the class name here is driver. Okay, once you specify driver, this class.forName is responsible to load the driver for you. You just need to make sure that you are throwing the exception here, because this forName method will it will throw the checked exception. So you have to do here throws exception, or we can also use try catch. Now the problem is this driver. What we need to also specify the packages for this, because we need to provide the qualified name. So we have to say this is com.mysql.jdbc.driver. So we need to mention the qualified name. Okay, if you want to understand exactly how this class.forName works, so I have a video on that. Just search for class forName Telusko. Okay, so make sure whenever you search for any topic, just mention Telusko there. Okay, so that you will get my video. It's very difficult to explain each and every topic in one video how that exactly works. What's important is whenever you work with JDBC, you have to use forName. Okay, time being, just remember that. If you are curious about that, just search for this video. You will understand how class.forName works. Not just for JDBC, but you can use class.forName for multiple things. Okay. Now the next step is you have to create the connection object, right? So for that, we need to say connection con, right? So we need to also import the package for this. We have already done that. We have said star, right? Now the problem is if I go to connection, it's an interface. You can see it's an interface. The problem is you cannot create object of interface directly, right? So we need to search for a class which implements connection, or we need to search for a method which will give you the instance of connection. Okay, let me repeat. You need to search for the method which will give you the instance of connection. And luckily, we have a method called as getConnection. So getConnection is a method in Java which will give you the instance of connection. Now this getConnection is a method of a class called as driver manager. Okay, so driver manager is a class in which you have a method called as getConnection, which is a static method. Okay, so if you go to driver manager, you can see it belongs to the same package which you are working with, which is java.sql. And in this package or in this class driver manager, we have lots of classes available, right? And one of the classes which we want to use here is getConnection, because this getConnection method is a static method which returns the instance of connection. Right, that's what we want here. So to achieve that, we need to pass three parameters, as you can see here. So we need to pass the URL, we need to pass the, okay, that's not the method we want to work with. We want to work with the other type of getConnections. Yeah, so this is the getConnection method we want to work with. We have to pass the URL, we need to pass username and password, right? So just go back to our class. Here you have to mention three things. The first thing is the URL. So what we'll do in this main function itself, let me create a string and we'll name that as URL. So that's the first thing we need to send. The second thing is the username. So we'll say this is uname. Okay, and the third string we need to pass the password. Okay, now what is the username here? So let me start with username. It is, for my system, it is root, and I have not specified any password here. Okay, so I will keep it blank. And the URL is, so you need to mention a thing which is your database name. But hold on, we don't have database yet. So before creating a database, let's mention URL, uname, and we need to pass. Okay, that's the password. You can see there's no problem now. So it says Java Manager get connection. But for that, we need to first create a database. So for database, we can use any type of DBMS. You can work with Oracle, you can work with MySQL, you can work with MS Access, you can work with any type of DBMS you like. Okay, so for this example, I'm taking MySQL. So first step, you have to install MySQL. Just go to Google again and search for MySQL download or MySQL server. It will take you to the official website of MySQL. Just make sure you download the MySQL from here. Okay, and the problem is when you work with MySQL, it's a command line interface. You have to execute everything using command line. That will not be that flexible, right? So what you can do is you can use a GUI for it, which is MySQL Workbench. So just go to Google and again search for MySQL Workbench. Okay, Workbench. So this is a GUI tool where you can work with database creation, table creation, all those stuff. Okay, so I have already done that. I have installed MySQL in my system. So if you want to learn about MySQL or SQL stuff, just again go to my channel, search for MySQL tutorial Telusko. Okay, so just to give you a tool to my channel, so just go to YouTube and search for Telusko learnings. Okay, so that's my channel name. So if you go to my channel, I have lots of playlists. Okay, so you can learn everything here. So you can learn about Java tutorial, you can learn about Android, you can learn about Java 8 new features, you can learn about design patterns, C programming, OOPS concept. You can also learn about Maven here, and the most important thing for this is you can learn where's MySQL. It should be somewhere here, so let me search for it. Yeah, so you can see we have a MySQL tutorial here. So you can just go to this playlist and you can watch all this video to understand how MySQL works. Okay, and after this you can learn lots of things here, how to use Eclipse, and you can learn about EJB, GUI stuff, all the stuff here. Okay, yeah, so just search for MySQL tutorial and you will understand how to use Workbench. Okay, let's get back to Workbench now. And here we need to create a table. In fact, I have already created a table here which is student. Okay, instead of wasting of time, I have created a table which is student. So if I say select start from student, I think I'll be already having some data because I have taken this session for a batch. Okay, we have only one record which is one Rani. So let me insert some values here. So we'll say insert into okay, what's the table name? It's student. Then we'll say values. So we need to specify the first thing. Let's say it is user ID 2, and we'll insert a name as Naveen. Okay, that's the first thing. Let's run this code. Okay, now we have the second record. Let's enter one more. So let's say 3, which is Mahesh. And if I run this code, we got 3 rows now. So if I run this code, okay, so we have 3 rows. What we'll do in this code is we'll give the value and we'll try to fetch the name. Okay, and the query for that will be, it is select, we need to fetch the username. So username from student, where user ID, okay, user ID is equal to 3, right? If I run this code, we got Mahesh, right? So that's what we want to do in Java. So first we have to mention the database name. So database name here is alien. So you can see we are working with a database which is aliens here, right? And okay, But the problem is MySQL normally works with, okay, so when we talk about the URL patterns or URL, we have to specify JDBC colon MySQL colon aliens. So that's the composite things, because it specifies that you're working with JDBC and the DBMS you're working with is MySQL, and inside MySQL you have aliens. But MySQL is a server level, or what you say, LAN type of DBMS, where you can have the database on other machine, you can access with other machine. So we need to also specify the IP address here. Since it is there in the local machine, I will say localhost, and we need to also mention the port number. So I'm using a port number which is 3307. If you are installing MySQL for the first time, the port number you will be getting is 3306. Okay, so you might be having a port number which is 3306. Okay, so make sure you know the port number. Now once we have done with the creation of the connection, now let's go to the next step, which is here we need to create a statement, which is very easy now. So just have to say statement. Okay, we'll say st equal to. Now in order to create object of statement, you just have to say con dot create statement. Even this statement is an interface, so we have to use create statement method, because this create statement returns the object of statement, right? And now if I done with the statement, now we have to actually execute the query. So before executing, let's state the query here itself. So in double quotes we'll mention the query. So let's copy the query from the MySQL which we have already typed, and let's paste it here. So that's the query we have, right? So we want to fetch the name of the user with roll number or with user ID 3. Now how to execute the query? It's very simple. Just say st.execute query, and then you have to pass the query here. Now whenever you execute this query, let's execute this query here in MySQL. So you can see we are getting a data. So what data you are able to see? Is it just Mahesh? And the answer is no, right? We are not just able to see Mahesh, we are also saying this username as the label, right? So this thing will return you not just Mahesh, it will give you the whole table. Not exactly the whole table, but it will give you Mahesh in the table structure. So we need to store that thing in result set, because result set has the power to store chunk of data in a tabular structure. Okay, so in this RS you have your data now. Now how to fetch the data? It is very simple. We can store that data somewhere. So we'll say string name. This is where you want to store data. So we'll say rs dot get string, and you have to mention the column number. So let's say if you are fetching multiple columns, so you have to mention the column number, or you can also mention the column name by in double quotes just write username. So we want a data with the column name username. Okay, you can have multiple columns, right? So you have to be very specific which data you want. That's why you have to mention username there. Okay, we can also mention the number. So let's say you can mention 1, you can mention 2, you can mention the column number, right? So that's it. If I try to print this value, which is name, okay, it should work now, and it should print Mahesh. If it doesn't print Mahesh, then there's some problem with the code. So let's try. Before that, let's do the last step, which is closing stuff, right? So we have done with the processing. Let's close it. How to close? Very simple. It's first you have to close the statement. So you have to say st.close, and then we have to close the connection also. We'll say connection.close. Let's run this code, and boom, we got the error. The error is before start of result set. It's because whenever you run the query, by default you can see the pointer here, right? Like, so this pointer, by default this pointer will be before Mahesh. Okay, so we need to in order to fetch the value, you have to say rs.next. So rs.next will take your pointer to the next record, and this time you can actually fetch Mahesh. So before fetching the value, you just have to say rs.next, because this is responsible to take you to the next element. Okay, so that's how you use JDBC steps. Okay, now we can do some more stuff here. We can insert the values. In fact, we can also fetch the whole table, not just one record. We can fetch the whole table, and we can also insert some values. So in the next video, we'll talk about how to insert values and how to fetch the whole table. So I hope you liked this video. So thanks so much for watching, and before going off, let me ask you a question. is just I have this habit of asking questions. So the question for this session is, who is the founder of Apple? Okay, so Apple Inc. So you have to tell me the founder of Apple. Just use the comment section to answer the question. So thank you so much for watching, and do subscribe for further videos.